PageTunes read. From the pages of PageTunes Magazine Monthly Number 4, April 2024. Story and artwork by Michael Zigerlig.
Happy harvest. The fading light of the sun cast a warm glow over Harvest Glen as Tim and I arrived in our new town. Surrounded by lush greenery, it was like a haven after the chaos we had left behind. Tim had decided to retire from his role as a Special Forces operative after losing his best friend in the line of duty. It was time for us to start anew, away from the constant danger and sorrow. As we pulled up to our new house, a quaint cottage with a charming front porch, the townsfolk had already begun to welcome us with open arms. It was as if Harvest Glen knew exactly what we needed: a fresh start and a community to support us. The next morning, we woke up to the sound of birds chirping and the scent of fresh coffee brewing. Stepping outside, we were greeted by a vibrant display of colors as the town prepared for the annual Harvest Festival. Everywhere we looked, there were decorations adorning the streets and stalls being set up in the town square. Eager to immerse ourselves in the festivities, Tim and I wandered through the bustling streets, soaking in the lively atmosphere. The townsfolk greeted us like old friends, offering us samples of freshly baked bread and homemade preserves. Everywhere we looked, there was a sense of joy and community that was infectious. Among the crowd, we encountered a colorful array of characters. There was Mrs. Jenkins, a plump, grandmotherly figure with a twinkle in her eye, and a penchant for baking the most mouth-watering pies. Her apron was dusted with flour, a testament to her tireless dedication to her craft. Then there was Mr. Miller, the town's elderly gardener. With weathered hands and a kind smile, he tended to the lush gardens that adorned the town square, his love for nature evident in every plant he nurtured. Among the younger generation, we met Monica, a bubbly teenager with a contagious laughter and a passion for art. Her vibrant paintings adorned the walls of the local cafe, adding a burst of color to the cozy interior. With her wild curls and mischievous grin, she was the epitome of youthful exuberance. Standing next to Monica was Jack, a rugged farmer with calloused hands and a heart of gold. Despite the hardships of rural life, he remained optimistic and hardworking. As we mingled with these colorful characters, sampling homemade treats and sharing stories, I couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging. In the midst of Harvest Glen's lively festivities, surrounded by friendly faces and delicious food, it was easy to forget the sorrows that had brought us here. As the day wore on, we found ourselves drawn to the heart of the festival, the town square, where a stage had been set up for live music and performances. As the sun began to set and the stars twinkled overhead, I couldn't help but feel grateful. Despite the pain and loss we had endured, it seemed that fate had led us here, to a place where we could heal and start anew. And as Tim wrapped his arm around me, his eyes shining, I knew that we had finally found our slice of paradise. I found myself drawn to explore a bit on my own, while Tim chatted with some newfound friends. The air was filled with the tantalizing scents of freshly cooked food and the lively chatter of the townsfolk. Yet beneath the surface, a nagging feeling of unease tugged at the edges of my consciousness. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first, but then I noticed them. The peculiar symbols adorning the decorations scattered throughout the town square. As I gazed upon the intricate patterns etched into the banners and painted onto the walls, a sense of heavy déjà vu washed over me. I had seen those symbols before, back when I was a teenager, with a fascination for the occult. They had appeared in the pages of the books I devoured late into the night, their meaning shrouded in mystery and forbidden knowledge. I tried to shake off the sense of foreboding that gripped me, but it lingered like a shadow. Adding to my apprehension were the whispered conversations I overheard as I wandered through the crowd. Words like the offering and ritual floated through the air, spoken in hushed tones by the townsfolk. I couldn't help but feel a chill as I caught snippets of their discussions, my mind racing with unsettling possibilities. Were these innocent traditions of the Harvest Festival? Or was there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? As I continued to explore, my curiosity led me to a closed tent tucked away in a secluded corner of the square. A muted scream pierced the air. Instinctively, I moved closer, my heart pounding. Peering through a gap in the fabric, I witnessed a disturbing sight, a hidden ceremony unfolding before my eyes. Some of the townsfolk gathered around an altar, adorned with flickering candles and strange symbols. In the center of the makeshift shrine lay a figure, bound and gagged, their muffled cries barely audible amidst the fervent chanting of the crowd. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the true nature of the ritual, an offering to an unseen entity in exchange for bountiful harvests. Horror washed over me as I watched, paralyzed by the realization that the sacrifice being made was a human being. Among the participants, I recognized a few faces. Mrs. Jenkins, her usually warm smile replaced by a chilling grimace as she wielded a knife with practiced ease, her movements betraying a familiarity with the macabre ritual. Beside her stood Mr. Miller, his sympathetic demeanor transformed into a cold resolve as he joined in the chanting. Jack, the rugged farmer, his features hardened with purpose as he prepared to carry out the gruesome task at hand. They began to stab the bound and gagged figure lying upon the altar, their muffled cries barely audible amidst the fervent chanting of the crowd. Despite the overwhelming fear gripping my heart, I forced myself to stay hidden. Terrified and desperate, I hurriedly left the scene of the ritual and sought out Tim, my heart pounding with fear and disbelief. I found him chatting amiably with our new acquaintances, oblivious to the horror that had just unfolded before my eyes. "Tim, we need to talk," I blurted out, my voice quivering with urgency. He turned to me, a smile fading from his face as he registered the distress etched across my features. "Julie, what's wrong?" I struggled to find the words, my mind reeling from the shock of what I had witnessed. I saw something awful," I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. Tim's brow furrowed in concern as he rose from his seat, sensing the gravity of the situation. "What happened? Tell me." Taking a deep breath, I recounted the harrowing scene I had stumbled upon. The hidden ritual, the sacrificial victim. With each word, The memory of what I had seen threatened to overwhelm me, but I forced myself to press on, knowing that I needed Tim's support now more than ever. When I finally fell silent, Tim's expression was one of disbelief, his eyes scanning my face as if searching for any sign of deception. "Julie, are you sure about this? It sounds unbelievable." Frustration bubbled up inside me at his skepticism. "I know what I saw, Tim. This wasn't some figment of my imagination. It was real, and it was horrifying." He hesitated, torn between trusting my account and dismissing it as paranoia. "I just find it hard to believe that something like that could be happening here, in this town. It doesn't make sense." I shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes. For a moment, there was silence between us. Then, to my relief, Tim's expression softened, a look of understanding dawning in his eyes. "Okay, Julie, I may not want to believe it, but I trust you. We are leaving." With those words, a sense of relief flooded through me, knowing that I wasn't alone in this fight. Together, we would escape from Harvest Glen. As Tim and I attempted to leave the festivities, our path was suddenly blocked by a group of determined townsfolk with baseball bats, their expressions stern and unwavering. It became clear that they were unwilling to let us leave, their insistence leaving us feeling trapped and vulnerable. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Tim's skepticism vanished, replaced by a fierce determination to protect us. He swiftly disarmed one of the townsfolk, his special ops training evident as he effortlessly overpowered them in hand-to-hand combat. Tim pulled me behind a nearby building, and we managed to avoid being seen as we took cover and continued to move from shadow to shadow, evading detection, even as the townsfolk searched frantically. As we caught our breath, Tim's mind raced, his training kicking into high gear as he devised a plan to outmaneuver the townsfolk and secure our freedom. Drawing upon his extensive experience, Tim formulated a plan that played to his strengths, a combination of stealth and strategy. With meticulous attention to detail, he mapped out a route through the town, identifying potential obstacles. Moving quickly and silently, he led us through the winding streets, avoiding detection at every turn. As the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, we finally reached the outskirts of Harvest Glen. With a sense of relief and gratitude, we left the freakish town behind us. 24 hours later, Tim and I found ourselves holed up in a hotel room. With the television flickering before us, we watched in grim silence as news footage of the town's raid by the authorities played out. The screen showed scenes of a swarm of officers descending, rounding up the townsfolk responsible for the sinister ritual I had witnessed. As the camera panned across the screen, we caught glimpses of familiar faces as they were led away in handcuffs. We sat side by side on the edge of the bed, our shoulders sagging with relief. It seemed that our decision to report to the authorities had not been in vain, and justice was being served. But our moment of respite was short-lived, smashed by the sudden sound of shattering glass. With a jolt, we turned towards the source of the noise as a figure emerged from the darkness. A crazed townsfolk who had somehow managed to evade capture. The attacker lunged towards us, her eyes ablaze with madness. It was Monica, the teenage artist, her face a display of madness, and her hand wielding a large knife. Tim sprang into action, meeting the assailant head-on in a frantic struggle for survival. What ensued was a blur of frenzied movements and desperate stab attempts. I saw an opportunity and seized it. With a surge of adrenaline, I delivered a decisive blow, a powerful strike that sent her staggering backwards. With one final push, I unleashed all of my strength, propelling the assailant through the shattered glass and 30 feet below, thumping on the edges of the outside staircase of the building and landing onto the half-empty parking lot. I turned to Tim, a grin spreading across my face. Happy harvest.
If you've been captivated by the magic of this audiobook, here's how you can immerse yourself even further and support the creation of more enthralling tales for your enjoyment. Unlock the ultimate listening journey with a yearly subscription on PageTunes.com. No interruptions, ad-free, and exclusive access to the full library of audiobooks and ebooks. Download and enjoy captivating stories offline, anytime, anywhere. Whether through subscription or individual purchases, you play a vital role in bringing more enchanting stories to life. Explore the merch store. From cozy hoodies to stylish mugs and much more, every purchase directly contributes to crafting more thrilling tales for your pleasure. Thank you and happy listening.